Hi, hi, hi. I'm still battling this sinus infection my children thought I needed for Christmas, so bear with me. We're going to get through the look back, though, because I want to get this all squared away and done. I have the camera at a different angle, so you're going to see me glancing this way to check my notes. It's because Freckles wanted to be in the video, but she didn't want to sit behind me this time. I think I rocked the chair too much before. Hey, baby girl. Yeah. So hi. I'm Cozy. This is Freckles. We like to snark on sister wives here on YouTube. I do like to remind you this video is for entertainment purposes only. Everything I say here is just my opinion, should not be taken as fact. It is not facts. It's just what I think about public figures who are sharing their lives publicly on television. All right. So let's dive into this look back. I felt like it was a little bit better than the talk back as far as giving us some information that maybe we didn't have previously. But I didn't necessarily feel like everything that was in it was needed. So we'll start at the beginning. They look at the order of the marriages, essentially. And Mary calls Cody out because he's like, I fell in love again, and I fell in love again, and I fell in love again. And Mary's like, and fell out of love again, and fell out of love again. Oh. Mary called his butt out. And so Christine's like, look how young everyone is. Everybody's babies. We're babies. They're babies. Everybody's babies. And so Robin's like, this is the family I fell in love with before I even fell in love with Cody. And I have expressed previously that I don't believe that's true. I just don't. I don't think that that's true. I might do a shorter video later to talk about some of the things that seem to have popped up about the Lehigh house in specific, but we'll hold that until later because Lord only knows how long this is going to take. So Janelle's like, I felt like this family was so cohesive. And Mary's like, I love these memories of all of this happy, supportive time that we had because everybody was together. And Cody's like, we all look so awful. Really? Everyone else is talking about, oh my gosh, we were so young. Look at us, we're babies. Dude, it was 14 years ago. Fashion trends were different, and you guys were different. Why do you have to be so rude? But he goes on to say, and he's like, I married Mary in 1990, and it was fun, and I didn't want to leave the reception because there were so many people there that I hadn't seen in a long time. And he's like, eventually people convinced me to leave because it was my wedding night. Now make of that what you will. We all have a general idea of what that means, but like, let me tell you, when the wedding was done, said, over with, I was ready to go. Like, I was like, okay, we did it. Cool. Can we be done? But of course, my social battery was probably a lot lower. My husband was pretty thrilled and excited about everything. I'm going to adjust this just slightly. There we go. He talks about how he and Janelle had a much quieter wedding because she was leaving the LDS church and her family didn't really want to be involved. And then he's like, Christine and I had a very tiny wedding and a large dinner. And he specifically says a large dinner. And he's like, I was like a deer in the headlights because it was too much pressure too fast. Nobody pressured you to go on a singular date with Christine and propose to her on that date. And then she was doing the thing that she thinks was doing the right thing by having the wedding quickly. Because you even said, wives aren't worried about other wives, but fiancés and girlfriends are not acceptable. You said that in like the first episode. He's like, I'm so glad we had our life experiences and our kids, but we should have courted for longer. You didn't court anybody that long, Cody. I don't know why you're worried about it now. So Mary's like, the family came together in a very unique way because we said we had 3 wives and dogs before we had kids, which is not typical for them. Normally the first wife would have her kids and then the second wife would come in and have some kids. And then the third wife would have, and so you would have some of the kids being similar ages, but you would have an established family before you brought on more wives. They didn't do that, and I actually think that was to their benefit. If I'm being honest, I think that's probably what made the family work for the first 15 years because they didn't do that. They didn't add an extra wife after having kids. So they show the clip of Cody telling the family he's going to propose to Robin, and all the kids are cheering, and Janelle's smiling. She's like, they were really excited to bring in Robin and her kids. They loved her. They loved her kids. They were super happy about it. And Mary points out that none of the kids knew what this experience was like what I was just saying, bringing in a new mom into the family because they had put their family together so specifically that they didn't know any different. But she's excited to see how excited everyone else is. So the show, Robin saying Cody's her soulmate clip, and Mary's like, I don't want to watch this. Do I have to watch this? And we don't see her again in the picture-in-picture, so I'm guessing they told her no, she didn't have to watch it. But she was very polite in saying she wasn't going to watch it. Save that in your brain. That'll come back later. Cody was like, this was a special time in my life because I finally fell in love. And Christine's like, it was difficult being a plural wife, knowing there was a soulmate coming into the picture. Because before that, she felt like everybody was on an even playing field. She and Mary and Janelle all seemed to have the same level when it came to Cody. He didn't prefer one over the other or show immediate preference. Janelle's like, when a new wife comes in, the husband has to work very hard to not diminish his other wives. Everything has to change. And Mary's like, you can be okay with another wife and still be jealous. And she's right. She's right. You would still naturally feel jealous in that situation. So Cody's blaming everybody else. And he's like, well, Robin and I were love struck, but everyone else wanted to complain about it. Yeah, obviously. Because instead of being appropriate, instead of having that situation that you had with your first three wives, you brought on someone else and you were very obvious in your preferential treatment of her. He says, when he sees that clip, Robin is so beautiful and so about the family, but that's not what we see. If I'm being honest, I'm going to be God's honest truth here. Number one, I never thought Robin was that pretty. Eat me alive in the comments if you will, that's fine. I just never did. I never thought Robin was that pretty for him to be so obsessed with her. In fact, if I'm being honest, always, Janelle has probably been the prettiest wife. Sorry, she has. There's just something about Janelle's bone structure. She's just very pretty. And so for him to sit there and be like, she's so beautiful. And when he just said that everyone else looked so terrible before, that struck me as very anger making. And what we saw in this clip specifically was Robin specifically being all about Cody. She wasn't about the family. She was about her soulmate relationship with Cody. And how courting Cody was so special. She even talks about it now. And she's like, it was a challenge because she was waiting for everyone to adjust and accept her. Which, what? No, it seems like they accepted you. And then when they tried to make that adjustment, you decided to make that adjustment be something different. Christine's like, I believed in plural marriage and I believed Robin was perfect for us. And I don't exactly believe her about that either, because once again, back to that first conversation where she's like, the first episode where she's like, sometimes a girl comes into the family and all she wants is the guy. And then Christine actually does share that that's kind of how Robin turned out to be. And I think she was trying to warn people ahead of time, like, hey, I see something in here. But she's being fair. She's like, he didn't do any dating until everyone was on board. I also don't believe that based off of the book. I just don't. In the book and even in the beginning, they told us that Christine and Janelle didn't know Robin. They hadn't met Robin, and Cody was already like so infatuated with her. He was so in love with her before anyone else had even met her. So we get the clip of Cody being like, I love Robin, but it doesn't diminish the love that I have for my other wives. And I've never noticed how angry Robin looks in this clip. I don't know if it's RBF or what, but she looks livid when he's saying that he still loves his other wives. And then he says something and she turns and smiles at him and gives him this like fawning look. And that's when she finally turns back to the camera and smiles when and what it is he's talking about how wonderful she is. And so I kind of noticed that. Go back, if you disagree with me, go back, watch, just see. It's, I think from there, the date that we saw, the original date that we saw on the series, I don't know. And so Mary's like, I don't know what to think or feel when he says he's in love with everybody. And then now he's telling everybody, she's like, are you lying now or were you lying then? Because now you're telling everyone you never loved Christine, that you never really loved me. You were just trying to affirm a relationship with me. And Cody's like, I was choosing to love them, which is what he keeps saying. That's not the same thing, sir. He's like, I was reaffirming constantly. It was like word vomit. Also, still not the same thing, sir. And he's like, it just wasn't what it was with Robin. Okay, fine. But be honest about it. Don't wait 14 years and then be honest about it. So Mary's like, his insistence now is this like, I'm going to call it the Schrodinger's cat type love. Not even that. No. Schrodinger's cat, where he loves them and he doesn't at the same time as long as he's not observed. If you never heard of Schrodinger's cat, that would make a lot more sense if you had. And it's just to fit a narrative. Janelle's like, Cody in the old clips is who he was. This was who he was. This is what he said. This is what he did. And I never felt like I wasn't loved. And Christine's like, I wouldn't have married him if I didn't think that he loved me. Even when he was courting Robin, she was like, I still felt like he loved me. And Robin's like, I've seen men in plural marriage have a tendency to gravitate to specific wife or wives. And she's like, I thought that kind of favoritism was destructive. And if I had seen it, I'd have backed away really quickly. I don't think you would have. I really don't. Because that contradicts everything we've ever seen Miss 11-Day Honeymoon. So now we go to discussing wedding planning. And Christine talks about how it was above and beyond for Robin to include them, which we come to find out, because I would have thought it would be standard practice to include the wives. When we come to find out when they were sharing that, I'm going to skip ahead just a touch, where Mary shares that when Janelle and Cody got married, Janelle and Mary bought matching dresses, essentially matching dresses, and she felt very included. But when Christine got married, Christine planned everything all by herself, and she just felt like a guest. And I would assume that's because Christine was living in a different state from the other wives and was trying to get married very quickly so that she wouldn't feel like she was doing anything to diminish the relationship within the family. But Robin's like, yeah, we had fun. And she's like, I told my mom about, or my mom shared with me about her feeling innocently left out. As far as we know, stepdad Paul only had 2 wives, which means that how was Alice left out? Because Alice was clearly shown some favoritism according to Robin. And so, I don't know, whatever. She said she was determined to include the wives. And Janelle does share that sometimes a new wife comes in and the existing family's not involved. And she's like, I think that's horrible because you're not just marrying the man, you're marrying the family. Which is then when Mary shares her thoughts about it. And Christine points out, after Mary shares her thoughts, that their wedding was very small and they only had a small dinner. She never thought to include them. And she's being honest. She just never thought to include them in the plans. And once again, I think proposal to marriage, very short period of time. They lived in different states, probably played a factor. But we get into the thing that makes me hate Robin, and that was Cody picking the dress. And Robin watching the clip is like, no, he didn't. And Cody goes and he's like, he's watching it back and he's obviously distressed because he knows that the optics of this are awful. So, he says it came off very badly and that this is a place where he hasn't forgiven. Forgiven what? I don't know. He's like, Mary made her dress. Janelle didn't wear a wedding dress. Christine threw together a wedding when I was living far, far away with the family. Sir, you had 2 wives. You didn't even have a child born yet. I understand Janelle was pregnant. Baby wasn't here yet. So he's like, this sparked some irrational jealousy in Christine. No, it's perfectly rational. And she's like, this was the day that I knew he was way more in love with Robin than he ever was with me. And so Robin's like, Cody and I didn't do anything wrong. Because, of course, Cody and Robin never do anything wrong, right? And she's like, he gave his input, but ultimately it was my decision which dress I picked. And then, snap cut to Cody, he's like, nope, I knew what I wanted her to wear. I basically was like, why are the wives even going to look? Because she's going to wear what I want her to wear. It was terrible. It was something I should have been involved in. Oh, honey, that sounds like irrational jealousy. You're irrationally jealous that your wives are going to go do something that is traditionally a feminine thing to do. That sounds like irrational jealousy. He's like, Christine was upset that I didn't want her to be. He says Christine was upset that he didn't want to be involved with her dress, and he said, I didn't want to be married to her. And then this man goes and turns around and wonders why his children don't want anything to do with him when he's out here on television saying, I didn't want anything to do with your mother, and maybe because of that you shouldn't have been born, which is basically the same thing that Robin did in her purity speech, in my opinion. Christine said this was a very intimate moment to be shared with someone that you're not married to, something so special, picking out the dress. I don't know if I agree with that necessarily. I mean, my husband didn't pick out my dress, but hey, that was just kind of something. I did pick out his clothing. It's fine. You know what? He got the wedding. I wanted to elope. Everything's good. And so Mary's like, I agree with Janelle in that scene. Why did you have us go do this if ultimately you and Cody were doing this together? And Christine's like, Robin didn't want anybody's opinion but Cody's. And I've said from the word go that I knew this was the moment that Robin didn't want to be around everyone, and I still stand by it. Robin tries to defend herself, saying that her sister wives took it as a fake experience, but that's not true. And Robin, honey, why wouldn't they feel that way? You picked nothing, then took Cody and picked out a dress, and then hid it from them. It's not protecting the experience to hide it from them. They would have felt so much better if you had gone to them and just said, look, I know we didn't find anything. We went out together. Cody and I were out. We stopped into the bridal shop. I found a dress that I really like, and I am so excited for you to get to see it on the day. I can't wait. Thank you so much for giving your input, and I appreciate it because this was an experience I was glad we shared together. That is not a betrayal. That is not lying. That doesn't feel like, oh, Robin is going to hide things from me. Robin is never going to be honest with me, which is how these women felt. They may have still felt hurt, but they wouldn't feel like they couldn't trust you. Easy enough. So Cody's like, wasn't fair to the other wives, but it certainly wasn't fair to Robin. Oh, really? How? And he doesn't even explain how it's not fair to Robin. He goes into that he felt like he and Robin gave everybody this special day, meaning the wedding. He means that he gave them this wedding so that everybody could come and ooh and ah and fawn over him and Robin, I guess. I don't know. And that all the water's gone under the bridge is that Robin is his favorite. And then he says, well, that didn't change the way I tried to work on the relationships with other women. Basically just saying, yeah, Robin's my favorite. Suck on that. He says that he didn't change how he spent time with his family, which was the chief complaint, except that how are we supposed to believe that? Every child is like, I didn't see my dad. Every wife is like, I didn't see Cody. Sorry. He's like, I have a lot of joy with the union, in my union with Robin, but there's a lot of pain because of the criticism. Whatever. So then they talk about moving to Las Vegas. And Janelle's like, status quo in Utah was that as long as we didn't say anything, we didn't make a fuss, they weren't coming after us. And so Christine shares that when her dad was 12, the police came for her grandfather, which broke up the family, and that her dad didn't see his siblings for a very long time, which would have been very heartbreaking at age 12. And then they go on to show the prayer circle when they're leaving, and Christine's like, this was our greatest asset because our religion was super important to us. It wasn't that just the polygamy part. We believed in all of it. We truly believed we were doing what God was calling for us to do. And Mary gives a really heavy sigh. She's like, we quit huddling a long time ago. And you can tell it kind of hurts her. She's like, Janelle says we would pray every night before bed. Cody was very regimented about prayer. And that it was such a big thing to them. And Robin's like, it was a common practice with our family. And she felt so much destiny and belonging. But like, I thought you told us you never belonged. So Cody said that he was hoping Vegas would be a better life, and it was. And then we have to go through Robin's pregnancy with Solomon and how everything went downhill really fast. We all knew that Robin was angry for a very long time and clearly still is angry about how the children have reacted. But dude, these kids' lives were being pulled apart. You literally uprooted them, moved them from everything they've ever known, put them into a vacation rental, split them up from their siblings after you all found homes, and then suddenly you're adding a new child. And Janelle defends them, basically saying the same thing I did. Their whole lives were uprooted. And when you have such a big family, sometimes the kids just go, Mom, Dad, enough is enough. And I understand. And so Robin's like, there were so many voices just struggling to accept Solomon while I was pregnant, and then even after he was born. And she's like, I've done a lot to forgive. There was nothing for you to forgive, I suppose. I mean, I guess if you feel like there was, then go for it. But Cody jumps in and he's like, there were some weird attitudes while Robin was pregnant with Solomon. The weird attitudes were, once again, everything being ripped apart. You even admitted that for those 2 years when your family was separate, that it was awful, that everyone was struggling. And so then we jump to Ari's announcement. And the before times Robin, that's what I'm going to call her. So she was preparing for it to be exactly like it was when Solomon was born. And she was still holding a grudge then against these kids who, once again, hadn't even had 2 months to settle into their lives, being completely changed and uprooted when they went to Vegas. And you're adding new babies to the family. I'm sorry. I can't blame them. And I'm never going to. Freckles. She almost ripped the camera down. Oh my gosh. Oh yeah. Also, this is the one that she made Mary share. And she's like, well, I wanted Mary to be involved. And I'm sorry, when you listen to Mary, she doesn't sound involved. She sounds defeated and hurt. Listening back to it again, Robin's pregnant. Like, she doesn't sound happy. She doesn't sound excited. She doesn't sound involved. She sounds like, I have to do this. I have to do this for the favorite wife so that Cody will forgive me. And Cody's like, the first couple of years before the cul-de-sac were awful. And yeah, clearly. And he's like, but then when attitudes changed when the family got back together again. Of course it did, because the kids wanted to be together. Please tell your wife to recognize that other human beings have feelings. Because Robin's still acting like the victim in all of this. She's responsible for 50% of the issues. Cody's responsible for the other 50%. So then we talk about working on relationships, and we see a little bit about Mary and Cody in Mexico. And Mary's like, he says that he didn't know he loved Mary for her adventurous spirit. And she's like, yeah, remember that. Remember that you loved me. And for what reasons? And we see Janelle's camping date, and she talks about how she and Cody were always good friends. And the longer you're with somebody, the more love grows. And it becomes deeper. It becomes different. And she's like, I didn't see anything changing at that point because we had such a solid foundation of being friends. Then we see Christine's paintball date. And Cody's like, on that date, we're acknowledging that we have struggles, that this was the one good day we had. And he's like, when you're struggling, you do your best to work things out and to just like make it to the next day. And I understand that because I've been there. I think we all have been there. And And those moments are really tough. And the more work that you're willing to put in, the more time and effort, the better. The difference is there was no other wife or husband for me to run to and hide from this, like you admitted that you did in season 17. So Christine's like, we had some down downs and some high highs, and that was probably one of the highs. And she's like, I would say we probably were getting along for a couple of weeks in that clip. But like, she's watching clip and she's like, do you see that right there? I thought he loved me. That's why I was shocked when he told me he never did. And Mary's asking, what's real? Because he's saying he's just performing. And she's like, you're not a good enough actor to be performing like this. You cannot just pretend that you loved people. And he's like, well, I remember how I felt on each of one of those dates, but it was still a struggle, but I was being optimistic. Oh, for the love of... I noticed they didn't show Robin's dinner date. They just showed the other 3 wives. So then Mary's fumbling with the iPad and she can't figure out how to turn on the clip, and the producers like try to help her figure out to use it. He's like, no, swipe up, and she's just not getting it. It was really funny. But then they have to watch her talk about the in vitro conversations, and those were not funny. And watching it back, all compressed together, makes you realize just how cruel Cody truly was. Just pushing her, and then, no, we're not doing it. And she says that day that he said no, she was planning on telling him that she wanted to do it. She had been trying every avenue that she could think of, naturopathic, medical, all these things. And so Cody says, well, I was so gung-ho in Mexico. And then a year later in Vegas, I was no, because I realized our marriage was unhealthy. Honey, this was in 2013. If you knew things were so unhealthy then, why didn't you do anything about it? And that was 10 years ago, almost 11, just like Mary told us that a decade ago, everything stopped. And she's like, I don't know what it would have looked like if we had moved forward and had a child at that time. And she's like, I see how Cody is with his different children. And they're playing this voiceover over the top of the clip of Gabe sobbing on Coyote Pass. And he's like, based off of his relationship with me, I don't know what he'd have been like. And she's hinting at how he treats his children, the ones that aren't Robin's, basically, based off of how they feel about the mother, is my opinion. That's what she's hinting at. And Cody's like, in retrospect, I'm really glad I didn't have more kids with Mary, because we weren't in a great place back then, and it's probably for the best, but it still was very cruel the way he went around it. Constantly pushing her, then letting Robin offer to be a surrogate, and then just taking it all away from her. That's hurtful. That's painful. And now I look at that and I go, I wonder what those behind the scenes conversations were like, based off the fact that Mary told us that Cody wouldn't let her publicly end their relationship because of criticism. You have to wonder a little bit, what was that like? So then we get to go on to Christine's jealousy, and we watch that clip where Christine's apologizing to Robin in the, like, I don't know if it's like a diner or whatever, for being jealous originally. And today's Christine says she anticipated that when Cody married Robin, that he would spend more time with her initially, but that it would all go into the normal routine. But the routine actually became he just never left Robin's house. And Robin defends that she wanted a relationship with each of her sister wives, but that it must have been that they'd had too much pain and suffering before her, that she just came too late for them to be receptive to that. I don't think that's the case either. She just said she remembers times in Vegas where she knew Cody and Robin had something special that she and Cody didn't. And she knew he was getting closer to Robin's kids and further away from hers. So as Christine watches it back, and she and Robin are discussing the jealousy and how the problem was Cody and not Robin, she sighs and says, whoa. And then she starts to tell us about how they went to therapy. And Robin would constantly say, I don't know where he is. My kids never see him. I don't know anything about that. He's not with me. And she's like, at that point, I knew I couldn't trust her because she wasn't being honest. And how am I going to trust her? How am I going to let her in? And I wanted to, but how am I going to let her in when I don't know when she's telling me the truth? Does she really want the big family, or does she just want Cody? And Robin's like, I knew what I wanted or didn't want. I knew what I did, and I can go to God with a clear conscience. Okay. So then we get to watch Mary discuss the catfishing. And we know how long this has gone on for. We watch the clip of Mary trying to talk to Cody about it, and she admits, I was angry, I was hurt, you abandoned me. And I'm thinking, I'm watching it, and as I'm watching it, I'm thinking, she doesn't mean with the catfishing. She doesn't mean you abandoned me with the catfishing, which is what we all thought at the time. She means you just straight abandoned me. And he says it makes him extremely angry because she won't admit the reality of what happened. And I actually agree with him here. She does need to admit the reality. Emotional affairs are affairs. especially if one party feels that they have been wronged in some way, shape, or form by your emotional infidelity. I understand not everybody might feel the same way that I do. This is my personal opinion. You're welcome to share yours. I will be as gentle as I can, but that is my opinion. And so Mary's like, uh, I just want to deny that I had an affair, basically. And so she's like, Robin's like, I thought I was helping Mary through a period of time where she was trying to leave the family. And Mary's like, we had stopped taking care of a relationship long before the catfishing happened. And that she just wanted Cody to support her, but he would just lay there in bed with his back turned to her. And once again, I don't necessarily think she's talking about not supporting her through the catfishing. I think she's just talking about in general. And so Cody's like, listen, there were probably a lot of great reasons she kicked me to the curb, but she denies having an affair. And that's because she was a victim of catfishing. Fair. And Mary's like, Cody holds firm to this opinion that I had an affair, and I hold firm to the opinion that I didn't. Okay. So producer Tim says it's time to move on to the next clip, and Cody's like, can I just flip you off every once in a while and have you take it personally? Okay, weirdo. But then we get to the commitment ceremony, and I still wonder why in the world they bothered to do this. Like, I don't get it. But Robin has an actual freak out when it comes on the screen. Like, freaks out, starts crying and throwing the iPad, and she stomps off and slams the door. And then we hear Tim say, let's cut. And that's where it all ends. And in some ways, I think this look back was better than the talk back because it gave us insight into the earliest memories of the Browns and why things may have fallen apart because of the earliest memories. It does give us a window into the terrible acting of Robin and Cody because we see how different they are when they're together for the talk back and when they're apart for the look back. The stories are just more calculated when they're apart. Almost like somebody had to coach somebody on the correct things to say, because when Cody's in those talkbacks, especially in the previews that we've seen for the upcoming one, he is aggressive, he is angry, he is shouting, and Robin is doing everything she can, like in this most recent one, to physically put her body on top of him so he has to stop talking. So it's very interesting to see the way that they speak in these lookbacks when they're on the couch versus the way that Cody is when he's comfortable in his own home. It's very interesting, very telling in some ways. At any rate, we got to look back and see how Robin and Cody like to rewrite history in season 18 because we got to see some things actually happen. Like I said, I'm still kind of sick, so I'm doing my best. The videos might be a little bit more spaced out. There might be a few less of them this week than normal. Just bear with me. I am doing my best to get better. I've gotten more snuffly as I've talked, so I apologize for that. I apologize for how terrible my voice sounds, but I'm really grateful that you guys are here. And I just wanted to give you all of you, a huge shout out for just how funny, how wonderful, how polite, kind, gracious you've been in the comments to myself and to each other. And I think that's just brilliant. Thank you so much. You guys have no idea how much that means to me. Back on Thanksgiving, this channel was able to be monetized, and it is going to make a massive difference in my life. So thank you so much for just watching the videos and being here with me. I am very excited, and I cannot wait to see what the new year is going to hold, not just for me, but for this channel and for our community. So once again, thank you guys. I appreciate it greatly. I'm going to go take some Dayquil and lay down. I hope you guys have a fantastic day, and I'll see you soon. Bye-bye.